Hello and welcome to another Reaper blog tutorial. Today we're looking at Addictive Drums 2, and I've been having a lot of fun making lo-fi drum sounds with this, making like trashy drum loops and stuff like that. Here are a few that I've made so far in recent projects. So these are a mix of, I think, the Fairfax Volume 1 kits and Real Machines. So I'm just going to actually grab one at random, more or less at random. One I was thinking of is Dry Kit, Dry Room. Let's hear this one. So that's a really basic drum sound, right? It's the Gretsch kit. Sounds pretty good, but let's trash it up. I'm going to go over to the Beats page and grab a loop. What's this one? Let's take this disco sort of beat. And we're going to the effects page. And I usually just start on the master channel, since this will apply to all drum sounds when you're using the stereo mode of this plugin. And this is a great way to start with trashing it up. Usually the first thing I do is cut a bit of the high frequencies using this kind of aggressive filter. And I cut a bit of the super low frequencies because we're going to beef this up using the tape saturation here. We'll just turn this up. And I'll turn up the compression. Next thing I like to do is mess around with some of the other distortions. So there's the crunch, zap, heavy, bit crush, tube pair. A lot of different options here. The bit crush I find is usually a bit too extreme. The heavy or the zap is one that's, or some that I kind of use a lot. All right, so now that we've added distortion to this, that hi-hat is just crazy loud. We're going to select the hi-hat and then turn it down in the overhead and room mics. So turn it way down, like, I don't know, -7 or 8 in each of them. Let's see how that sounds. So that's got quite a bit of character. The delays and stuff can be pretty interesting. If we solo the snare, it'll sound like this. Adding in a little bit of subtle delay. All right, so I'm just going to save this sound using the snapshot for now. And let's load that original preset again and save that as a snapshot so we can A/B. So here's the original preset. Something that's kind of cool to do is to basically turn down everything. I don't think there's a quick way to turn down all the tracks at once, but we'll just use the room mics, and let's hear how that sounds. So I think there's a bit too much snare in the room mics now, so let's turn that down. Oh, and because we're using the snapshots function, I'm using the fader levels instead of mute and solo. Snapshots don't recall mute and solo, but they do recall all the faders, all the effects settings, all of the, pretty much everything except for the mute and solo. All right, so this bus section is kind of an interesting way of applying some parallel processing to this. So this preset comes with kind of a really bassy thump kind of effect. So it's adding a thump on every kick and snare and tom. Most of the sound is cut off because of the cut filters here. So that distorted sound is coming from the comp and distortion section using the iron transformer. So we can try this out with different sounds. And that kind of adds in an interesting effect. Let's blend that in more subtly. And let's save that as another snapshot. So let's go back to the original sound. First setting we came up with. And the second one. So there we have two new presets. Let's just go ahead and save these presets now. There's a save preset button up in the top left. And we'll call this, I'm gonna call this one lofi 5, I think I'm on. No, JT lofi 5. And this is an acoustic sound, and it's going to in the more extreme section. And we can save it. And so that was snapshot 3. I'm going to save snapshot 1 as another preset. So this will be lofi 6. And save that. All right, so back in the browser, click on my presets, and here are my new presets. You can preview these with the original MIDI. So this one, JT Lo-Fi one, that was using one of the jazz, this Chicago jazz one. I think that's an interesting preset to start with. So I think the cymbals are way too loud. And to turn them down, you have to use the overhead level and room level, like this. And so it's a bit tedious to turn all those down. So here's how that sounds. And now let's just beef this up with the tape and shape section. So this bus effect is only getting a signal from the overhead, so let's turn that down and just send kick and snare. So back to the master channel, we're going to use the cut. I like my lo-fi drums dark sounding with lots of distortion. Pretty much any combination of like smashing the bus, the kick and snare bus, or using the master effects and this like the crunch module or something like that, and along with the low and high pass filters here. That's usually my starting point. And this isn't a sound that you're probably going to use for an entire song, just like an intro or a bridge or just some sort of special effect sound. So that's where I'm going to leave it for today. As I said at the beginning of the video, I've been using this quite a lot for making the intro sound, the intro music for these videos, and having a lot of fun with it. I pretty much use this sort of workflow. I pick a beat, and then I mess around with the effects, making them darker, adding distortion, messing around with the tape saturation. I might change the balances of like the hi-hat. And usually when I add distortion, the hi-hat and the cymbals become too harsh, so I have to turn those down. And the overheads are room mics. So if you have Addictive Drums too, I hope you'll try this out. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You can follow me on Facebook and Twitter. You can join our Facebook group, Reaper Blog Community, support the Reaper Blog through Patreon, and visit reaperblog.net for a lot more tutorials.